Hello, friends. Thanks for tuning in this week. I got a great episode for you. Really interesting guest with a lot of great insights as well. But before I do that, as always, please subscribe, follow, rate, review, all the good stuff to help promote the podcast. And that's really the only way for us to grow. If you want to stay up to date, please be sure to check out the newsletter. You can check that out through the Twitter profile page, or you can just go to my link tree, which has all the different links from YouTube to Spotify to the newsletter to how to build a podcast, how to create a podcast from scratch, a full A to Z tutorial. And that is on Gumroad, again, in the link tree. So just go to my link tree on any of the profile social media handles that I have, either Instagram or Twitter, and it's right there. All right, let me introduce this week's guest, Stu Heinecke. Stu is an author. He's best known for the books How to Get a Meeting with Anyone and Get the Meeting. He's also a cartoonist for the Wall Street Journal. And additionally, he is currently working on a book called Weeds. I actually don't know the full name because it's not released. But if you go follow him on his website, LinkedIn, all that stuff, I'm sure he'll be releasing more information on that sometime in the near future. And yeah, feel free to go check that out. We covered a lot of topics around marketing, entrepreneurship, but contact marketing as well, which he kind of crystallized in my mind what that is. But we talked about how to stand out. At least for me, that's how I see it. How to stand out, how to be memorable. If you're going to approach someone, if you're going to try to get a meeting or try to get someone's time, which is the most valuable commodity, how do you stand out from all the emails, all the DMs, all the requests that people get? So there's a lot of great tips in there and some insights. And for me, it was just how unique can you be that is still authentic to you. Don't try to be something you're not, but try to be memorable, try to be unique, try to stand out. If they're getting 10,000 emails a day, make sure you're that one email that stands out and gets that attention and is memorable. So a lot of great topics. We talked about mentorship. He told a great story about how he met his wife. And just a lot of great things in this podcast. And one more thing, guys, if you enjoy the podcast, if you're listening week in, week out, please consider supporting the podcast. You can go through Anchor and do that. It's, for the amount of a cup of coffee, you can easily support the podcast and help us be independent and grow. And I would really appreciate that. All right. So without further ado, let me introduce this week's guest, Stu Heinecke. Enjoy the podcast, everyone.
The Genuinely Interested Podcast.
How you doing, Stu?
Doing great. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's I really enjoyed it. I feel like we could have kept talking for another couple of hours just for the pre-recording. I felt like there was so much to cover and it was a lot of fun. So I'm glad that you're on the podcast and thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I'm kind of a fan of I'm new to your show, but I'm becoming a fan. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, it's nice of you to say.
It's a great show.
Thank you so much, man. All right, so maybe give people a little bit of background for people who may not know who you are. Just, a quick, brief intro.
Well, I got a couple.
It doesn't have to be actually that quick or brief, but just maybe tell people, a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, I have a couple of books out and I have a new one coming out I'm really excited about. So the things I write about are, so far the things that are out that people know about are books about getting meetings. Mm-hmm. Really interesting because we can get meetings with just about anyone. And if you get the right meetings with the right people, man, you can really change things in your life.
Yeah.
So, not only that, but also if you think about it, getting a meeting is about as basic as a necessity in life as you can get. Obviously, we have to eat and breathe, those kinds of things. We need water, but socially, if we're going to make things happen in our lives, we have to be able to be really good at getting meetings with people and making those meetings count. So those books have been a blast. But I have this really crazy background because I have a background in my education is in marketing, but But I'm also a cartoonist. I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists, and already that kind of makes me kind of a wacko, I guess. But on the other hand, it gives me a great combination of things because I can use those cartoons are like secret weapons. That's why I wrote those books about getting meetings. Because I discovered that if I send someone a cartoon and I personalize it, make it about them, I can get through to just about anyone. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I live on an island. I'm in a beautiful part of the country of the U.S., a little bit north of Seattle, but not in Seattle, thankfully. I'm on an island that is just beautiful, just pristine, and it's a beautiful part of the country.
How is it living on an island? Because I feel like it sounds ideal. And I actually visited like some of the surrounding areas of where you live, some of the islands in the area, which were, so idyllic. So it was just beautiful. I was just like, when I was there, I remember thinking to myself, I could settle here right now. It would be amazing. But I've never lived on an island, and I'm sure there are some disadvantages as well. But like, what are the advantages and disadvantages?
Well, I thought you lived in Manhattan. That's an island.
It is.
That's island limit,
super
baby.
Accessible, though. Super accessible.
Well, so it's kind of interesting because I'm on Whidbey Island, and it's many things as you go up the island. It's this long, irregularly shaped island, about 30 miles long, but only a couple of miles wide, and it's this very oddly shaped island. And so you're really not far from the water, almost no matter what direction you go. If you go east or west, you're not far from the water. And so it's either these giant Douglas fir forests or farm that goes right to the edge. Well, I was going to say right to the edge of the water, really a lot of times right to the cliff's edge.
Yeah.
And then water. So it's very dramatic. We're surrounded by two mountain ranges. So the Olympics on one side and the Cascades on the other. There are volcanic peaks, Rainier and Baker and so forth. And it's just a really stunning place. This is where one of the places in the world where orcas live. So there are several orca pods, all kinds of things to see. It's gorgeous. It's really pretty. You probably don't want to know the underbelly of this, though, right?
I always do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, on the other hand, we have because I mentioned to you, I brought my generator. I had to bring my generator out for repair.
Yeah.
So the other part of this is that we're right at the blast zone of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So this weather comes in and it's funneled because there are coastal mountains. So
the two mountain ranges on both sides, they kind of funnel the wind into the
right
island?
Down the strait. Yeah. And guess what's at the blast end of the strait? Our island. So there are times, I don't want to make it sound very rare. Like all throughout fall and winter, we get these storms that blow in, and they can blow like hurricanes sometimes. And so a hurricane against a forest means that some of those darn trees are going to come down, and they do. And so it's almost like every time we have a windstorm, the power goes out.
Wow.
And sometimes it's out like this. One of these recent ones, it was out for 72 hours. It's like, what do? You run your generator and figure out how to get connectivity again, because otherwise you can't work.
Yeah.
So it's like that. And man, oh my God, some of the trees that have come down and how close they've come to houses and so on. Whew.
Yeah,
Man.
we had. I lived in Connecticut for a while, and I didn't know this about Connecticut, and maybe because of the climate change, the weather patterns have kind of shifted and changed there. But it was windy. I want to say between 50 to 70% of the time. Like you said, trees falling on power lines. We had a tree. I was sitting in there was a little sunroom in the house. And I was sitting there one day when there was this kind of serious storm happening, and a tree fell maybe like a foot away from the house. This massive branch just fell off, and all these trees around were falling. Like you would drive the next day and you would just see carnage all around. You would just see trees everywhere. Yeah, roads were blocked. So it's a serious thing.
It can get really serious.
Yeah,
it can get really serious. And so that one storm where the power was out for 72 hours, my two neighbors had some big ones come down. big Douglas fir trees come down. And those things get about 120 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they just go straight up. I think that's maybe what telephone poles are made of, but these are giant. These are big trees.
Yeah.
And when they come down, they're serious. So yeah, anyway, that's the underside. I guess it's just that I love living on an island. And you mentioned Connecticut. I grew up in New England. So my family used to have a sailboat. So we would sail. We were on the Massachusetts, Rhode Island border. So there are a bunch of islands. There's all the islands that come off sort of the elbow of Cape Cod, and then Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and then to the south, Block Island. And I fell in love with islands from all that. So I love living on an island.
Yeah. You can buy one. I think like in Maine and in Canada, and there's a bunch of places where you can buy an island. I mean, it's not humongous or anything, but you can buy an island for, not too much.
Yeah. A few million.
No. I've seen for six figures. I've seen like small islands. Yeah, you can buy them for six figures off like the coast of Maine and a bunch of other things. But, again, it's rough, right? I don't know, like probably there's no electricity connection, plumbing, all the other stuff.
Yeah, and there's nothing. There's nothing. So, this island's perfect. In the little town where I live, the village of Langley is, it's just 2 blocks. So it's First Street, Second Street. There's an alley between. It's a really cool bar in the alley. Nice. Brewery bar. That's pretty cool. And it's galleries and, those shops and stuff. But the stores on First Street on the water side are on stilts. They're kind of like on stilts, almost over the water. They're not quite over the water, but they're on stilts. So the pizzeria on First Street has the best view I've ever seen. I mean, it's like you're 100 feet up over the water, you're looking out at another island. You might see whales swim by while you're having pizza. I don't know. You could see all kinds of stuff going on. And that village, and it's like turn of the century, not this century, but last century, the century before. Sort of storefront architecture, just really cozy, cool. I love this.
Wow. Yeah.
So, anyway.
Are the stilts because of the water rising or because of the storms? They just, they wanted to have that?
No, it's a cliff.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. They're built cliffside.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty dramatic. It's really cool stuff.
I have to come visit. I haven't been there like a decade. So in that area for like a decade. So I have to come visit.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do it. All right. So we didn't come to talk about islands, right?
A little bit. Yeah. Part of it. We've got a lot of time. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And I mean, we talked a little bit before we started recording, and actually it's not even something I considered, but getting a meeting with people, I would assume we're talking business. That's what everyone assumes, right? How to get a meeting with someone. I want an investor. I want to get a meeting. I want to get a job, whatever it is, right? But there's also the social aspect, right? Like if you're looking to get a date, if you're looking to, get a new friend, whatever it is, that's also sort of a meeting, right?
It is.
It's trying to get a person to say, hey, I want to be with you. I want to meet.
We collaborate somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we collaborate somehow. Yeah.
So maybe, give people a little bit more insight onto the book and the ideas behind it. And
so the thing is, I'm a cartoonist, right? So I've been using my cartoons my whole career to do a lot of things. And I've created a lot of really very, very, I was going to say very successful. They were record-breaking marketing campaigns using cartoons and personalization. So that you get a cartoon that's personalized. It's about you. It's by one of the famous cartoonists from the New Yorker or the Wall Street Journal or something like that. And that's just had a great effect. I think things have changed a lot. I mean, with social media and memes, I think cartoons have kind of been pushed out of their box a bit, but they're still cool. I mean, cartoons are great. Yeah. And they're funny. And so that's pretty cool. So I've been using cartoons my whole career to break through to people as well. And there was a campaign I did at the very, very beginning of my career that launched my business. And it was just this one campaign to about 24 people that I spent about $100 on, and it launched my business. So you can get meetings that have great meaning in your life. I mean, it can just really have a big effect in your life. And that's also true. Well, that's true in business, of course, but it's also true just in life and just in general. We're social beings. We collaborate. I mean, if we don't, then like if you're just alone, nothing happens.
Yeah.
If you can't connect with anyone, nothing happens. So I think you were kind of alluding, though, to my best meeting, the most important meeting I ever had.
Do tell, please.
Well, so as a kid in New England, I was influenced by James Bond films and maybe Aqua Velva commercials and ABBA. That I just was just smitten with these beautiful blonde women from Scandinavia, and I just thought, I'm never going to meet someone like that here in New England. I didn't see any anyway. I didn't know any of any. I'm never going to meet anyone like that here. So if I want to meet someone like that, I'm going to have to go there. I'm going to have to spend a couple of months and shop around, just meet people. I thought, man, what a great adventure this would be. So that was my high school fantasy. I was like, that's so cool. I've got to do this sometime. Well, now we fast forward about 15 years. I had my business going. I'm based in Beverly Hills, and things are going great. I'm thinking, what's next? I got to make a film out of that high school fantasy. And so I hired the screenwriter who wrote the original Pink Panther screenplay, and we did a story treatment. And then the next step was that I was going to go to one of the Scandinavian countries with my video camera, get footage of the place and the people, and maybe interview a few models or actresses or something, or people so that I could come back. And I didn't know what I was doing. So wait, I was going to come back and make a video.
A documentary or like
no, this would have been just to say this is the video to present to investors.
I see.
Because I wanted to turn it into a feature film.
This was a pitch.
Sorry?
This was kind of just a video for a pitch later on.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So, and I had never been there, so I didn't know if I had. Maybe James Bond isn't a great representation of reality. I don't know. So I had to go there and find out. And so I booked a trip, and about a month before I was set to go out, I saw this picture of this woman in a magazine, and I just said, "Oh my God! If I was going on this fantasy for real, this is the girl I would bring home. This is wow. Who is this? Mm-hmm. God, look at her! Oh, she's just amazing. I've got to meet her. I've got to figure, or I've got to interview her. Maybe she lives in. I was going to go to Stockholm, so maybe she lives in Stockholm." So I wrote to the magazine. I'm an insider in the magazine business. I work with a lot of magazines, so I quickly got through to the right people. And I said, "Look, I'm working on this film project. There's this picture of a model on page whatever, and I'm going to Stockholm on the off chance that she lives there, or maybe in New York because I'm going to New York too. So would you put me in touch? I don't know if she has an agent or I don't know how this works, but would you put me in touch with someone so that I can arrange an interview?" And so they wrote back and said, "Well, her name is Charlotte. She lives in Copenhagen. We don't know if she speaks a word of English. Here's her photographer's name and number. Good luck." So who do you think I called next? Right? So I called up Mikael Anker and I said, "Mikael, I told him the whole story. And I said, would you introduce us? And I'd like to fly her to Stockholm so I can interview her." He said, "Look, she's a little bit difficult. So she won't fly to, she's not going to fly to Stockholm to meet anyone. Yeah. But if you change your booking to come to Copenhagen, I'll interview. I mean, I'll introduce you, but I'll also introduce you to a few more models." And I thought, okay, this is what a great trip. What a great meeting trip this is going to be.
It's a jackpot.
Yeah. So I went, but I was just really, I only had eyes for her, and we connected, and we arranged to meet. And actually, then I arranged to have her give me a whole tour of Copenhagen that day, and so we spent the whole day together. It was amazing. Wow. That's the most important meeting I ever had. I've had some great ones, mind you, but in terms of the effect in my life, that's the big one.
And then that became your wife.
That's my wife. Yeah. She's my wife.
Wow. That's an insane story. That's a lot of, I don't know if I'm a little jaded with the with the younger generation, but it feels like today, back in the day, trying and going after another person would be looked at as romantic, right? Obviously, there's there's people out there that are sketchy, but generally speaking, that would be a very romantic thing to do. And now it just seems like if you try, that's like not cool. It has to look easy. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
because it could either be stalking or it could be pursuit. And so certainly you got to read the other person. I mean, if she was freaked out by it, I wouldn't have like no, wait, listen, we don't need to do this. That's fine. Yeah. But I also wanted to interview her because I was thinking she'd be great for the film. I mean, that she wasn't an actress, but she would be incredible for the film. So, so there was a good reason to meet, and there was value. Here's the thing: if you're going to ask someone to meet with you,
value.
And my focus is on meeting with the people who can change the scale of your business. Well, either your business or your life.
Yeah.
And she certainly changed the scale of my life. So, you also have to show up with value. I mean, you can't just be saying you'd be a lot of value to me if we met. Yeah. You got to be bringing a lot of value to them as well. So you've got to be thinking about what value will I bring to them, and how will I make this valuable to them. So for just going in, I'm interviewing her for a film project. So I think that was intriguing enough that she's like, well, okay, let's give this a chance. When we spent the whole day together, that was, well, it was just, I think it was the most romantic day of my life, the most romantic thing I've ever been through. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever been through. And I think if you're going through that, if you're feeling that, I think that's contagious.
For sure.
Too. I mean, what are we going through here? This is actually, that's pretty cool. But,
did the movie
I don't know.
pan out?
If I was like, let's say, this would be absolutely bizarre, but if, let's say, I wanted to meet Britney Spears,
okay,
and my wife is not Britney Spears. I mean,
she's emancipated now.
We're talking about totally different people here, Yeah. But I'm just saying, someone in the eye, someone in the public eye. No, I can actually let me make it much more relevant. If I wanted to meet Agneta from ABBA, well, she has a lot of fans trying to connect with her, I suppose. I assume she has a lot of fans who try to connect. I mean, they've got such a big footprint worldwide. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess at the very least, I'd have to be connecting with her to interview her. And that interview better be something that brings value to her, because otherwise I'm wasting her time. So I wouldn't be putting myself in her or the other person in the position of wasting their time, asking to do something that wastes their time. Yeah. So you can be really respectful of people's time and I guess just their lives. Where are they in their lives? What's going on? And how is it that you have something to offer? And if you have something to offer, something that's great to offer, then man, you owe it to you and the other person to at least explore that. If they're open to it. And I sort of specialize in making people open to those things.
Did the movie ever pan out?
No, there's no movie, but our daughter is a filmmaker, so
that's cool.
she might still make. Well, like part of it was incorporated into one of her films, but nothing yet.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, if you transfer that whole idea, that whole model into today, how do you transfer that over? Because today it's social media rules, numbers rule, followers rule, all that stuff is the most important. And oftentimes, more often than not, if you're going to get a job or if you're going to try to get interviews or any real interaction with another human, they're going to be checking you online and seeing if, he's got the numbers, he's got the quote unquote, air quote credentials, and is it worth my time? How do I convince someone with 1 million followers, right? When I have, let's say, not me specifically, but a person has like 27 followers, how do I convince them to give me their time?
You mean for an interview or like an interview like this, editorial interview?
Not something specific, but let's say if you're a podcaster, yeah. But if it's for a meeting, or if it's for a pitch, or it could be for anything. But how does someone with, who's an unknown numbers wise get a meeting with someone who's got 7 figures in followers?
Well, I think it's two things. You've got to be. I think you got to be pretty fascinating, okay. And you've got to bring value. I think those are probably the two variables. But that makes it sound really boring, actually. So, like when I'm sending someone a cartoon and I do this a lot. I mean, I do it a lot. I use cartoons a lot to break through, and again, they're always about the recipient. So that's kind of fun. And if I'm sending you, let's say, there's one cartoon that I love to use, although I don't love the circumstance. But if I've made a proposal, I run an agency. So if I have made a proposal and that proposal is stalled, and that's what proposals do, they stall. So if that happens, then I have this great cartoon that I send out. One of my favorites of my cartoons. So it's this guy, and he's cradling the phone on his shoulder, and he's sort of going through some papers. He's because he's looking at some papers, and he's saying, "Hey, listen, we got your proposal, and we like everything except having to pay you." So it's like that's the problem with every proposal. At least one. Oh, you're going to pay for it? You're going to charge me? So I send a print of this out. Maybe it's a signed print, or it could be just a card, even. But and it goes out with a message saying, "Hey, sorry, it didn't work out this time. Maybe next time." Yeah. And so it's kind of like dragging a string around the corner from a cat, I think. And I would say about 50% of the time that wakes them up and the proposal gets done. So that's just, I didn't just call them up and say, "Hey, I'm just checking in," right? Again, yeah. "Hey, I'm just leaving you another message." It's more like I think you really want to have people saying on the other end of all this, saying, "I love the way this guy thinks," or "I love the way this woman thinks," or "I just love the way this person thinks." We'll put it that way. Yeah. "I love the way this person thinks. We need this kind of thinking around here." So if it's audacious and it could be funny, should be clever, should be useful. Maybe that's the big one in all caps. It's got to be useful to them and relevant to them. Just something that they just say, "Wow, oh my gosh, wow, that's cool." Yeah. So if you do that, then that opens doors. Because again, if you caused the reaction in someone that if they're saying, "Oh my God, that's remarkable," and man, I love the way this person thinks, then they're gonna want to connect with you, and it's not a cold call anymore. So I think I'm a big believer in doing that. Now you mentioned, social media and numbers, metrics, and so I don't think people. I don't know. I don't connect with someone because they have a certain number of followers. I don't even pay it.
A lot of people do though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but what I'm saying though is that if it's someone that I think would be a great client, let's say, or even just a great contact, I think the first thing I'll do is just probably reach out to them. And if we're talking about, let's say, on LinkedIn, the first way that people reach out, it seems, is asking for a connection. Yeah. And you may or may not do that, but I think when you connect on LinkedIn, and it's probably true on other social media as well, but it's kind of like, it doesn't have a lot of gravity to it. It's not a very significant act in our lives. Like I log on and I might have 10 of these things a day that I'm responding to. And if they've read my book, I'm kind of looking for something. If they're pitching, forget it. If I see a pitch coming, it's sort of, under the surface, it's like, "I'm going to lead you with this one, but boom, here's my pitch." Forget it. Yeah. I'm not interested in those. But if it's someone who says, "I read your book," or "I heard you on a podcast," or something like that, or just, "Hey, I saw the comment you made and I wanted to connect," then I connect with them. But here's the thing. It's kind of like, it's about as significant an act as waving to someone going the other direction on the freeway, right? So you're like they come, zoom. Okay, you wave, zoom, they're gone. Yeah. And then you're on. Oh, there's another one. So you wave to them, and it's just sort of. Oh, I forgot who I waved to now, and I think that alone is not enough to make much of a connection. So if you really want to connect with someone, I just think you got to do more than that, because ultimately, what we're trying to do is just connect as humans. That's really what this is. It's just human to human connections. And so if I've connected with someone on LinkedIn and I really want to push this further, I'll at least send them a DM, but it might be, let's get on the phone and talk. And because I think maybe we could create some mischief together. I don't know, but I would love to explore that with you a little bit. Yeah. Or I'd love to ask you about this thing you said, or something like that, something relevant. And I'm not trying to sell them anything at this point. I'm just connecting with them. Maybe we sell, maybe we don't, maybe we never sell anything to each other. Maybe they sell to me. I don't know. But we're just connecting. I think that it requires sort of multi-channel communication. So if I really wanted to connect with someone, I'm beyond that, and I really wanted to get their attention, I would send them maybe, I'm going to hold something up, but I'll describe it. But I might send something like this. So here's it's this envelope made out of corrugated cardboard. It's actually a prototype, so you can't buy these. And it has a window, about a 2-inch square window in the front. So you can see that there's a cartoon inside. You pull it out, and there's the cartoon, and it's a card. And I've not, on this one, I've not written on it, but there's a card with a handwritten message that would go inside. And in the cartoon, this would be for Christmas, right? So this one I'm looking at. So I'll describe it. It's a scene in an ice hotel. I think maybe you might see in Sweden or Canada somewhere. Those hotels that are made of blocks of ice. And
yeah.
So,
those are cool.
So there's a bunch of people that are all hanging out at the bar. And so there's these two guys talking. One of them is married, and his wife is right next to him. She's looking around saucer-eyed. She's looking around. She's like, who else is here? Mm-hmm. But the guy's speaking to this other guy to his other side, and he's saying, my wife here thinks these ice hotels are a great place for a Roy Ben. Roy Ben-Zvi?
Ben-Zvi, yeah.
Yeah. So for a Roy Ben-Zvi sighting, I keep telling her she's just as likely to spot Santa Claus. Well, if you look all the way down the bar,
there's Santa.
There he is. Santa Claus. What? But you don't see him at first. It's I love that cartoon for Christmas. Anyway, yeah. So I might send you a card like that. So it has your cartoon. It's a cartoon. It's about you. And I'd say, Ben, it was really great talking to you the other day. And gosh, we got to find some mischief to get into. I think you might keep it. You might keep the card.
So what if someone doesn't have the capacity or ability to create a visual medium like yourself? You have that talent. You have, because it's molding two things together, right? It's the ability to draw something, but it's also the ability to create a funny moment within a cartoon, which is poignant, drives the message across. And that's, I'm assuming the drawing part is the easiest part. The tough part is the idea, making the whole thing pop off just with like a couple of lines and
writing the captions so it's streamlined and it gets right to the point. All of that,
But when someone doesn't have that talent, right? And also today, maybe it's a little bit more difficult because for the most part, we're interacting, like you said, via DMs or emails. It's not so much a send you a postcard type of.
Yeah, but you should. That's why you should.
How do you even get people's addresses nowadays?
Oh my God, it's so easy. There's lots of ways to get addresses.
Really?
The Rocket Reach, Seamless AI, and so on.
But those are emails, no?
You can get emails. You can get all kinds of stuff. You get contact data. So no, it's really easy to get addresses. And I'm just going to say something real quickly that
sure
that because we're talking about postcards and cards right now, it's just a format. I'm just saying though that format shows up physically with a handwritten message, and that is not what people are seeing today. And some, like let's say the unenlightened among us, will say, yeah, because that's old school. Yeah, you don't do that, right? I will say, look, you got to do what works.
Yeah.
That's not old school or new school. Just use what works. What, for God's sake, send what works. Use what works to break through. So, and by the way, if you're on social media and you're just sending DMs or you're just sending emails, maybe you're just sending, you're using cadences. Do you think you're standing out? Do you think you're doing something unique? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So do something unique. That's it. So, but you asked though, what if you don't have the ability? Like, what if you aren't a cartoonist? I guess essentially.
Yeah.
And I was going to joke earlier and say, then just give up. But that's not really that's not the deal.
We can wrap up the interview then.
Yeah,
we're good. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Forget it. So, but the thing is, and I'm excited about cartooning because I'm a cartoonist and it works so well. It's such a great device. But this is not about cartooning. It's because right now I'm only talking about the thing that I do, and I'm a cartoonist, so it reflects who I am. But you shouldn't be trying to reflect who I am. Obviously, you should be reflecting who you are. Yeah. What do you love to do? I mean, what is it? There might be something that you do that produces something really, really interesting. And I was talking to someone last week who sent me a leather, this really cool leather. I don't know what to call it. It's not a carry-all because it's a really small thing, but it carries a couple of pens and a little pad of papers. If you wanted to, you could just jot down notes if you didn't have your notes app open on your phone. But it's this, I guess it is kind of old school. It's really cool, though. It's a nice thing. It's handmade. So you might make things that you could share. You might knit, for example. Kenny Madden tells a great story about someone, one of his coworkers who sent a knitted scarf to a prospect and got a great result out of that. And so she started knitting things all the time for people she was reaching out to. But look, the thing is, what we're really talking about is very small pieces of contact marketing. And contact marketing is a micro-focused or uses micro-focused campaigns to connect with people of very, very high value. Usually these people they're high placed. I mean, they might be CEOs or C-level people. They are probably, let's say, access is controlled, metered, or protected by assistants. So you got to deal with assistants. And so there are a lot of ways to do this. And so you could be sending something physical, or you can use email. Or not email. You can use social media quite easily to connect with people still, but I just think using a connection or a combination of these really makes sense. And so if you were connecting with someone on LinkedIn and then or Twitter or whatever, and then you sent them something kind of outrageous, that's kind of a cool way to do it. Yeah. Or I got to say, we're doing an interview right now. You reached out to me. It wasn't really hard to get a hold of me, right? Mm-hmm. This interview, this process, doing a podcast is a great contact device. I know you know that, right? Yeah. Because I'm sure you've been noticing that you're connecting with a lot of people that you might not have connected with otherwise.
For sure.
And when you're doing it, it's not just, hey, I'd like to connect. It's, hey, let's do an interview, because we're going to hang out for an hour, right? So we get to know each other, and that's just totally different. We're connecting on a human to human level, and that's what I'm saying we need to do.
For me, it's been a crazy experience, I want to say, because when I just started out, it was about a year ago, maybe actually probably a little bit more. But I was like, you know what? I like that. I like the format. I like the idea, talking to people. And like you said, people who wouldn't give you 60 or 90 or 120 minutes of their time otherwise. But now when there's a format, when there's a springboard for them to talk and to share their ideas, they're willing to come on. And I've had some amazing, and honestly, more than the conversations, I've had like things that I've learned along the way. It's almost like a free tuition, because you get to talk to all these amazing people. And if you can just, distill an idea or two out of each conversation, I mean, that's a massive thing.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot like the process of writing a book too.
Yeah.
Well, let's say a business book. I don't know. I haven't written novels, for example, but when you're doing a business book, well, like How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, or this other one that I wrote, Get the Meeting, you're interviewing people and saying, well, when you I'm interviewing people, I'm saying, when you absolutely have to get a meeting with someone who's of great importance, someone who's almost impossible to reach, well, like, what's your big guns? Well, how are you doing it? What are you doing? And they share all kinds of crazy, really interesting, really clever ideas, great stories. And, I think ultimately, so that's a theme. I'm asking, people who get meetings, how do you get them? But you end up going through this discovery process together, both you as an interviewer and the person who's being interviewed. You go through a discovery process, and it's just an incredible thing. So you're learning, they're gaining insights, your listeners are gaining insights. So it's a great thing to do. I think ultimately, we are offering insights. We want to, of course, I want to astonish people when I'm reaching out to them, but ultimately, and I mentioned though that there has to be value, and I think ultimately that value is probably insights.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you come away from it learning something valuable, something, or let's say at least interesting, maybe interesting and valuable. Wow, what a great gift! Yeah. So these are ways that you end up handing value to someone else, giving value to someone else, is by giving them something that they can walk away with and say, well, gosh, this just has value in my life. This is great.
And here's an example. This is something I saw a few months ago that popped in my head. There's a guy, I believe his name is Henry Balkester. I hope I'm saying it right. Shout out to Henry on Twitter. And there's this podcast that's super popular. It's called My First Million with Sam Parr and Sean Puri. It's a business podcast. And I think they wanted to maybe revamp the studio or set up, because with COVID, everything that happened, I think they did separate studios, each in their own home. And he essentially put out, and this is what he does. He does like video podcasting, audio technician, stuff like that. And he put out this really cool video saying, hey guys, I'm going to drive over to your house, set up your whole studio, right? He did this really cool YouTube video, and I'm going to do it all for free. And I just want to be part of the My First Million thing. And they retweeted it. It went viral. He got the job. He went and he did it. Through that, he got other jobs with other, entrepreneurs. So, and now I think he's doing a bunch of different podcasts, but that's a great, it's an example of doing something for free, right? Getting the exposure, getting future jobs, so thinking not sprint, but marathon.
Yeah, there's that. And then also, since we're talking about sort of tools and mechanics of getting meetings, using video is great. That's a great tool. And especially, I think if you marry it to, well, at least one of the ways to do this, but would be to use Vidyard or BombBomb or Loom or something like that. But I use Vidyard. So if you use Vidyard to send someone an email with a video in it, if they click on the thumbnail or the link, then they end up on the Vidyard platform. That's great, because then it starts taking metrics. It starts measuring metrics, and so you get these real-time metrics. You get to see what's happening, like how many times does this video open? Who was it passed along to? How long did they watch? And so you can see these spikes in interest, real-time spikes in interest.
So you can see all the analytics.
Yeah, you see what's going on. I think that's brilliant. So what a great contact device. And so there's a guy named Ryan O'Hara, who I think is still with Lead IQ. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in a few months, but Ryan is really, really brilliant at producing videos that you just go, man, who is this guy? I love this guy already. Who is this? And so he did one. I think the first series he did was right around this time of but a few years ago. He just decided, okay, look, we're not going to be calling people, but why don't we come up with a new way to reach out to people? And so they put together Christmas videos that were, but they had actually, I wouldn't even say, I was over Christmas, but it wasn't Christmas now that I'm thinking of it. The theming was rock and roll. So, but they had this string quartet play Led Zeppelin songs. Like, hey, and they get on and they say, hey, Roy, I just wanted to give you a little gift here. I think you're a Led Zeppelin fan, perhaps, I don't know, or I don't quite remember what they said, but essentially it was Ryan on video saying, hey, Roy, pardon me. Hey, Roy, how's it going? I'm Ryan with Lead IQ, and I just wanted to introduce myself, but really, I didn't want to talk about business. I wanted to give you this. And then all of a sudden, there's a string quartet playing, and he just does this. Like, if he wasn't doing this, he'd be on Comedy Central.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's personalization, but it's also how am I going to get remembered if this person's getting. And, someone someone that has 500,000 or 1 million followers, I can only imagine what their email looks like, what their DM box looks like. It's probably tens of thousands of unread emails. But how do I get that person to remember me, to remember my name, to remember my face, to remember something about me? How do I separate myself from the sea of all the other people that are requesting? And everyone's got an agenda. No one's just like, doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Everyone wants something. But like you said, like it has to be a shared interest, right? I also have to bring something to the table. I can't just take.
Yeah. So we know that there has to be value, and you want them to say, I love the way you think. But I think the one word that comes to my mind is audacity. Like, wow, look what this guy's willing to do. Wow.
Chutzpah. Yeah.
Oh my God. So there's lots of stories that Dan Waldschmidt is a really interesting guy. He writes the blog Edgy Conversations. I think he has a book out called Edgy Conversations. But his blog is really quite popular. It's a sales blog. But what he does as a living is he's a turnaround specialist, and he's got a pretty cool process. I won't belabor it. There's a nice long story, but I'm going to make it really short. Just that he when he finds a story of someone who's announced missed earnings estimates, he goes to work and he has a sword made by the prop maker who made all the swords for the movie Gladiator several years ago now. But these beautiful swords, and they're engraved with the CEO's name, and they're sent this beautiful wooden box with a handwritten note. Handwritten notes show up a lot as elements in these campaigns that work really well. Again, I guess because it's contrarian. It's who gets handwritten notes. So it's a handwritten note, and it says, "Hey Ben, I noticed you lost a battle recently, or the business is warned. I noticed you lost a battle recently. Just wanted to let you know, if you ever need a few extra hands in battle, we've got your back." So that sword is a visual metaphor for the value that and the audacity, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess audacity probably is as good a word as any, but the audacity that he intends to bring to the challenge of helping you turn your business around. And he's willing to go to war. He's willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with you and go to war not with you, but for you, with you, and as a result, he gets 100% response to those campaigns. So every one of those that he sent out, the CEO does get back to him. They have a conversation. That doesn't mean they always hire him, but I mean, when he gets an engagement, it's worth $1 million and up. So he could spend what he spends. He spends $1,000 on these. So that's audacity. That's really pretty cool. But then I'm going to show you something, and I know this is we'll have to describe it. It'll be the theater of the mind, but I got to show you something.
Sure.
So visual metaphors don't have to be expensive, but you don't have to spend $1,000. So what I'm holding up right now is a coffee spill, and I'll have to describe this because it's made by one of these companies that makes fake food for displays, for delis and so forth.
So it's props, right? It's kind of like props.
It's not. They could be. Perhaps they could be used in movies, but I'm saying in delis and restaurants and so forth, where you see all this food lined up, or maybe you see kale and things are, maybe seafood is nested on the kale or something like that. Well, a lot of times that's fake and you can't tell, or maybe you can tell, I don't know. But a lot of times those things are fake because then they don't spoil. You know, they don't have to keep replacing them.
Yeah.
So, but they also make these spills. So I'm holding up something that is a coffee spill. So it's a knocked over paper coffee cup with this, that is kind of hard to describe, but this spill of coffee.
Yeah, it just looks like
hanging in the air right now, but it
just looks like a cup of coffee that coffee is just spilled and the straw is just on the bottom.
Like the stirring straw fell out.
Yeah. But it's completely plastic. It's completely fake.
It's all plastic, but you look at it, it's ultra realistic. If I put that on my desk, you'd be saying, "Oh my God, Stu, you just spilled your coffee." So
yeah.
So this thing costs all of $14.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what a great visual metaphor for, let's say, loss or risk management, spillage. If you're reaching, I would say 90% of B2B sales is we can help you save money.
Mm-hmm.
It seems, right? So, and you know, if you're spending more money than you should, that's spillage. Why would you spill your money? And just like coffee, if you spill your money, like if you spilled your coffee, you're not going to drink it. You know, you're not going to drink it off the desk. It's gone. It's spoiled. And so, same thing with spilled money or. Pardon me, or other.
It's a great metaphor that you can send. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it costs you $14. You know.
Yeah. Even that seems expensive. That seems like that should be costing like $5 at most.
Oh, come on! This thing's really cool. Look at that. Yeah, I think that's pretty darn cool. It's so realistic. So the thing is, if you said that to someone, and let's say you said maybe you pop a note inside, and maybe you pop a Starbucks card inside, and you say, you know, I'd like to talk to you because I know a little bit about your business. I've been reading and following what you're doing, and I think I see a source of spillage, or let's say a source of risk, and I'd like to talk to you about, you know, sort of like if you dropped your coffee, you wouldn't. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are much bigger sources of risk in your business that I think we should talk about. I'd love to talk to you about that over a cup of coffee. So, you know, we could just do a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's great.
I think that'd be pretty cool, right? So you're not spending $1,000 to do it. And just ultimately, you can't see because this is audio, but behind me is a whole table full of all kinds of contact devices that we use to help clients get through, or examples of things that others have used. So going back to fake foods again, you can buy lemons, and you know there's this sort of if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So I mean, you could there's a lot of things you can play with. But I love the spills because that's something that it's an item of fascination. Someone is going to keep that for years. They'll keep it right on their desk because it's a conversation starter. It's a cool thing. It's like, you know, it's like something you might get out of a joke shop, you know, but there it is. It's a cool thing. And you sent, if you're the sender of it, you sent it to them. I mean, you gave that to them. And I think that's a good way to show up.
All right. I want to cover a few more things because I know we don't have too much time left.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Because for me, I'm very interested in trends. I love to see trends, and this is not even a trend because it's something that's been popular for a very long time. But why do you think self-help books are so popular? You know, and it's industry agnostic. I don't care if it's financials or spiritual or food or diets or workouts, sales. It just seems like that is the number one category in every bookstore or on Amazon. Like, is there like this real, I don't know, thirst in people to just gain more knowledge and try to better themselves, or is it something else?
I would say it's a couple of things, because one is, well, if you're intellectually curious, and you should be, you know, I mean, like that's what adds so much spice to life. If you're curious about things, about how they work, or how you can maybe how you can do something, how you can learn a new skill, then I think that's. I mean, I think it's the smartest people out there that are doing this. It's not books. It's not that they're smart because they read books. Well, it is kind of that way. They read books because they're smart, actually, and they want to know more. They want to learn more. They want to absorb as much. I don't know, perspectives and insights as they can, and skills as they can. Now, this kind of leads us though to the other. I have another book coming up.
Okay.
That we haven't talked about. It's about weeds. It's about growth strategy as inspired by weeds. and it comes out in May. So I can't really talk too much about it. But here's the thing: the really interesting thing about weeds is that they come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, like all kinds of weeds out there.
Yeah.
But there's grasses. There's on the island. There's a tree that is considered a weed.
Really?
It like grows 60 feet tall, and then it falls over. The damn things always fall over, so that's why it's a weed. But they come in all shapes and sizes. But
what? So sorry. What? Because I thought weeds would just be like invasive grass species.
they are. Yeah, they are.
But you're saying a tree as well. Like what categorizes, I guess, a weed then?
It's something that here's what it is. It's something that we humans find inconvenient. That's what it is. It's a derogatory name, I think, for a plant. I think that's kind of what it is.
Okay, so we just made it up.
It comes from us, obviously. So, but I was going to say, and this is key. So weeds come in all shapes and sizes, all forms. They cover 6 continents. They're not found on Antarctica, but otherwise they're everywhere in the world. And you would think that they do different things, but actually they all follow the same formula to grow and expand and dominate and defend their turf. And that is that they leverage, it's going to sound crazy, but they leverage this fierce mindset and a set of cultivated unfair advantages against collective scale. They all do the same thing. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit about, what I think actually makes a little bit of sense in terms of answering your question about self-help books, is when we look at scaling. If we look at scale, and in the book I've talked about one-to-one scale and multi-channel scale, and then finally collective scale. And we are taught to operate at one-to-one scale. We're taught to be self-sufficient. That's how you. I know we connect. We've been talking about connecting, but you have to also be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're told from early on. The first thing that happens is we play musical chairs, and it's a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! There's not enough chairs in the world. Okay, I better be proactive. But then we're told to go to school and get good grades, study hard, get good grades, get into a good college. And maybe go for advanced degrees, maybe not, but eventually go and get a great job. But you know what? None of that is scalable. You can't scale. You can't have 1,000 jobs. It's not scalable. So actually that one-to-one leverage that defines self-reliance or we'll call it self-reliance, that one-to-one leverage actually prevents us from scaling. So the drive to reach or to read how-to books is about following that one-to-one leverage that we've been trained to do. But you have to be careful because there's also a trap, and it traps you into one-to-one leverage, and you never get out. You can't scale things. You have to be thinking in terms of. You have to be thinking outside yourself as well. As an entrepreneur, we have to be self-reliant. I mean, supremely self-reliant. But we also have to understand what it means to build teams and how a team, the right people, can bring just such a wealth of and such a rounding of perspectives and abilities and talents that actually end up forming the pieces, the solution to the solution to the problem. They are the pieces of the puzzle, and without all of the pieces, you can't put that puzzle together.
Yeah.
So it's it's a conundrum.
Well, that's also a great segue to my final question, which is mentors. How much weight or emphasis do you put on mentoring and mentorships? Or, is it trial by fire, fall 100 times, get up 101 times, and kind of just, learn as you go? Like,
yeah, it's both.
It's both?
It's both. It's all of that. But I can't say that I have my finger on the pulse in terms of a trend about mentorship, but I think we should be doing more of it, a lot more with it. And I say that partly because, I was kind of professionally, I was kind of raised by wolves in a sense, because my mentors early on, I I just stumbled into this, luckily. But when I started my company a long time ago, I remember I was telling you we were creating these campaigns with cartoons and personalization. And so I brought in a lot of my heroes from cartooning, so from Playboy and from the New Yorker, into my group. These are some of the best cartoonists in the world. And so suddenly I get to work with them, hang out with them, and I learned from them a lot. They didn't know that they were mentoring me, but they did. I mean, that was the most incredibly valuable experience I could imagine certainly at that age as well. Although I think we should accept mentorship throughout our lives. I mean, It's just a lifelong process of learning, and you do that through mentoring. Like, hang out with the people that are your heroes, or the people that are the best in the world of something, and you will it'll rub off. It's just amazing. It'll get you. Not only will it rub off, but the attitude about reaching that pinnacle will rub off. And I think that's something that probably is lacking in today's society. I don't know. I don't want to blame it on politics, but politics are certainly divisive and toxic.
Yeah.
It would be great if we were instead focusing on helping each other,
Yeah.
collaborating with each other, just creating stuff that's just absolutely cool.
Yeah.
But I think mentorship should play a big role, and it plays a big role in I think a life well lived.
Well, there's that quote, right? You are the sum total of the 4 or 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. And I think there's some merit to that.
Yeah, there is, although those people change throughout your life. But you got to pay attention to that. And I will say also, I'm going to leak a little bit more, spill a little bit more about the weeds. That I mentioned that the weed mindset, like, how in the hell would a weed have a mindset? They don't have brains, so there are emotions. How would they have a mindset? But they do. We can see it. When you cut down a weed, when you pull a weed, watch what happens. You can almost watch it in real time. It starts rebuilding right away. I mean, these things they're persistent. They're aggressive and urgent and adaptable. They're resilient. And I think, I won't say above all, but certainly most surprisingly, I think they're optimistic. And so, when you approach a challenge in life, that's how you want that. You want just this solid, fierce mindset. And I think that we start out with, let's say, a mindset. Let's say our mindsets, everybody's walking around with a mindset, is worth $1 million. So what are you doing with it? Because it can then be either enhanced or diminished by your thoughts and by who you're with and by who and what you expose yourself to and what you find interesting and what you spend your time on and all that. So a mindset is something to be cultivated and protected. And if you have toxic people in your life, get rid of them. That's the opposite of a mentor.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you have people that are draining the value of your mindset, get them the hell out of your life.
Yeah.
You don't need them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Stu, this was a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us and sharing some knowledge and wisdom. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Where can people find you and your books? What are some of the best places?
So I guess a couple things. If you know how to spell my name, which is Stu Heinecke, StuHeinecke, you can come to my author site, StuHeinecke.com. It's kind of a cool thing hanging there waiting for you, which is an offer of a sneak peek into how to grow your business like a weed. But the book that's coming out in May. So you can do that. I would love to have you come in and join my list. That would be wonderful. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. That's kind of the other place that I'm most active. And just mention that you heard me on the podcast.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to, as always, put everything in the show notes, make it super easy for everyone to find Stu. And yeah, man, thank you so much. I had a blast today. It was a lot of fun.
Me too. Cool. What a blast.
All right, man. Take care, buddy. We'll have to do it again sometime.